So this is the second part, and I wanted to explain why I chose my feet. Um, One of the attacks, I want to talk about domestic violence. If you're not interested, you don't have to watch. But I think everybody should know. Yesterday, two women were murdered in Israel. In America, every day, three women on the average are being murdered by their partner most of the time, their husband or their life partner. These are my feet. At one occasion, my husband picked me up and slammed me against the bed so hard that my small toe went this way. He broke my toe, and I had to have it put together again in surgery, and I had to walk on crutches for weeks. And I had at the time three small children as well, and I was a single parent because he had to be removed from home. Now, this woman who dates him at the moment, she's been dating him for years, posts on Facebook all kinds of hate messages against Israel and Jews. The BDS movement, let's ban Israel, let's ban Israel. Now, the beheading of the teacher, I need to explain that my ex-husband is a teacher. The father of my children is a teacher in Europe. The beheading of the teacher, he's not going to demonstrate against him. He's too busy demonstrating against Israel. Do we have beheadings in Israel? Has a teacher ever been beheaded by a Muslim person here? No. Why don't we have Muslim people beheading? Muslim people here are an integrated part of our society. There's no pharmacy where there's not an Arab person working. It's a popular profession here. I'm not saying we have paradise, but where is paradise? But we have it a hell of a lot better than in Europe, where there's discriminatory laws against Muslims, and and the lesson that took place in that school, well, the person who beheaded the teacher wasn't a pupil in the school, wasn't involved, but obviously there was talk in the Muslim community there. Obviously, an 18-year-old doesn't just act on his own, so extremism was preached to him. So this woman will never post anything against extremism in the Muslim world. Once upon a time, she was married to a Muslim man who ran away from her as far as he could after he achieved a European passport for himself. And she has been since dedicating herself to fighting the Palestinian cause. And of course, the Palestinian cause means the destruction of the state of Israel, in her opinion. She doesn't preach for coexistence. She tortures my children with extreme political views. And there are several, Switzerland is a small country, but there are several organizations where she's very active, and it's called like Palestinian Cafe. None of the people there are Palestinian. They're all Europeans whose motivation is they really don't like Jews. They really think Jews control the world. They think Israel is this big empire full of Jews that want to take over the world. And that we are beating up Palestinians every day, and all Israelis have the same political opinions. So, not really nice people. Now, this is my foot that was injured. Also, my psyche was injured. My ex-husband controlled everything. He was a bully. He was yelling at me. He was bullying me for years. I kept trying to get rid of him, but it was impossible. I was like in a cage. And then she came along and saved the day by being his girlfriend. But then he decided to focus on her 24/7. So she also did a beheading. But you'll never see anything against extremism on her Facebook. And that really irritated me. So I thought I would make a video sort of talking to her. I'm not going to talk to her. I'm not going to post it on her Facebook because I don't want my children to be upset even more than they are. Because my ex-husband and his girlfriend use my children as weapon. Anything I say, they take it out on my kids. My kids are by now adults, but they're still under the terror of their father and girlfriend. They're not allowed free speech. So the beheading already takes place by people like her. People are not allowed to express their opinions. They only can think like her. And this is very typical of people that talk about fascism, totalitarian violence, but they actually are violent. They actually are face fascist. And it's really great how my ex-husband goes to demonstrate against Israel. I didn't put a gun to his head saying, you have to marry me. In fact, he wanted to marry me. And all of a sudden, not only did I have personal hate, hate against women, hate against me physically, emotionally, and in every way, but now he's against my country, my culture, my religion. I've never been extremist in my opinions. Quite the opposite. But he's now demonstrating every opportunity he has. Israel is bad. Israel is horrible. Well, Israel is now in the process of developing a vaccination for corona. Guess what? Our tribe was also responsible for vaccination against polio. But does anybody say that? Does anybody speak about the many inventions, including Facebook, by Jews? No. We're only demonized in Europe not too long after the Holocaust, only a few decades ago. They murdered Jews and spread lies against them, and it continues. And I think it's time to stop these people. It's time to say stop, because domestic violence, it's just a subgroup of violence. Violence against animals, against women, against anyone who is potential victim of violence. And it's time to stop violence against teachers, violence against people you don't agree with politically, violence against women just because you can hit them and you're a coward, and instead of hitting someone your own size, you choose a woman. It's about time also to say to all women who date men like this, wake up, girls. If he's not going to hit you, you're going to just have more poison and hate together. And it's really not healthy to hate. That's why I choose not to really hate, because I don't really think it's good for me or my children to hate. But I think it's time to wake up. To wake up people to the fact that domestic violence is in every socioeconomic group, and it's not getting better because people don't care. People do not care enough. And it's time for women to unite, especially together, and realize the French saying, it's better to be alone than in bad company. It's time to help women get out of these relationships before it's too late. For me, it wasn't too late. I got out in time. It still lives in my mind because I still have a lot of anger and hostility, but I try to channel it into good places, into fighting against violence. And not in the political plane, but in a real life, a real simple day-to-day life, against women, against animals, against anyone. Violence against anyone is not right. So let's get out of politics and let's go back to being people that care. Peace, light, and love.